Hello! Hello and welcome to the AU Wishbone and AU Wishbone TV. And we are joining you live tonight to talk about National Signing Day 2016. And I am joined as always by my co-host.
I'm John Ringer.
John, we're looking spiffy tonight.
We decided since it was signing day, we would kick it up a notch and not wear, Auburn T-shirts or whatever. We would be a little spiffy since it's an important occasion.
It is an important occasion. It's a very good, very happy occasion, I do believe.
Amen.
I'm going to be juggling about 50 different windows on my computer monitor here, so let's do the best we can tonight. For those of you watching live or those of you watching recorded in the morning or sometime later in the week probably, welcome to AU Wishbone TV. And for those listening on the podcast, we love you guys, of course. You've been with us for 3 years or so, and we're going to try to do the best show both for video and audio that we possibly can. So now I'm going to get back on script. Let me see. I'll get rid of the Champions League. Lovely intro music. All right. We have, as I said, made the move to video. And we are at AU Wishbone, at Van Allen Plexico, at JK Ringer, and AU Wishbone at gmail.com. All right. I got lots of signs. And we are brought to you by the War Eagle Sports Radio Network, the WarEagleReader.com, and, of course, WhiteRocketBooks.com. So let's get down to business. We are so much it's me. I'm so much bumpier on video now because I never dreamed it would be so exponentially more things to keep up with than doing audio. But we're going to get it down. We're going to get used to it, meaning me. Okay, so remember the podcast is still around. If you're watching this live or watching it on video, you can always go to iTunes. You can go to the whiterocketbooks.com and listen to our podcast. But you can join us here for video. Now, let's get right on into it, John. We got big stuff to talk about tonight. We had a little bit of a National Signing Day yesterday, did we not?
A very good National Signing Day. As always, the importance of the players we get on National Signing Day is a little bit overrated to me. The guys that committed earlier that were just as good or, as important. But it is always dramatic, and it was a very good day overall for Auburn. So
that's a good point. I want you to expound on that a little bit because that's a point you've made before that I think is very worthwhile, that we tend to devalue the players that sign or maybe even, are on campus early because we've got them, right? We've already got them. It's almost like if we signed a dozen 5-star players and they reported in January, we would be freaking out over a 3-star that hadn't signed, in February. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So
yes,
let's talk through that a little bit.
Here's a good example. Like Landon Rice, it was a guy that was committed a long time ago. He was a big tight end out of North Georgia, an excellent player, and I'm really excited about him. But he's been committed forever. I think he's been with Auburn since he was a junior. And so if he had committed to Auburn yesterday and filled our need at tight end, I think people would be doing backflips about it. But because he's been committed for a long time and he's one of the early enrollees already in school, people take it a little bit for granted. Was the Derek Brown commitment yesterday and signing yesterday huge? Yes, absolutely it was. But at the same time, a 4-star guy that you got last April, or last August is as important as the 4-star guy you got yesterday. So the only difference is, there's fewer opportunities to get 4-star guys at the last minute. I mean, every team, it's like a musical chairs thing. Every team has a few spaces left and the players are deciding where they want to go, and then teams have to adjust and, and invite other people. So, but there's always a little bit of a tendency to overrate guys in terms of their impact because they committed at the end, and to forget about those guys who were committed at the beginning who may have, even more impact on Auburn in the years to come. So,
right. Absolutely. So this is neat. One thing I like about National Signing Day, particularly after a season that was disappointing in a way, not quite what it could have been, this is just the next step in kind of washing that one away, because hope springs eternal and we look to the future, So if you think about it, first there was the bowl win, good performance in the bowl game. That kind of made things a little better. And then you go to February, you got
then you have the hire the new staff members on defense.
That's right. Right. So we just get, something, and it just slowly gets that ball rolling in the excitement back up that maybe we had lost because of the way that the last season sort of went. So, all right. So first up, we got to talk about the overall impression of the day. I felt very, very, very good. I was very excited. The beginning of the day was a little disappointing, but as things went on, come on, you had to have been pretty happy, right?
You did have to be very happy. I mean, I think if you went into the day with realistic expectations, then I think you were very pleased. I mean, I think the idea that we were going to get, the son of Dale Carter away from Tennessee, or the son of Alabama's leading all-time tackler away from Alabama, was unrealistic. So, if you went into an expectation that the chances of getting those two guys was like 5%, then I think you had a really good day, because it did turn out really well. We got this Prince Sammons guy that was on a lot of people's radar, as a 4-star offensive tackle prospect that Herb Hand's been recruiting a long time. And, the other part is the day was kind of spaced out. Some other signing days, all the dramas, but between like 8 and 10 in the morning kind of. And this one, I mean, it didn't end until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that was
So how did you imbibe of it? What were you doing to keep up?
Well, I mean, like every year in National Signing Day, I was at work, so it was the important lessons from signing days past are: keep a phone charger with you, okay, and don't try to get scheduled in any meetings where you're not going to be able to check your phone for like hours at a time. I mean, a couple of years ago on signing day, I was in a training session or something, and I couldn't look at my phone for like 4 hours, and that was like torture. So that's the lessons from, and you don't want to run out of battery either. So you either got to bring a charger and plug it in, or you got to have one of those little battery backup things with you at all times on signing day. That's important. They got to be prepared. You got to think ahead. And
right.
And then you also, it really helped that College Magnolia and other people put out the schedule of when these guys were going to announce. So then I was able to kind of go off and work or whatever, and then come back and be available to check Twitter and look online at the times when they were going to announce.
There you go. Peace in our time. Peace in our time. A piece of Georgia's action. So, yeah, I was at work too. Get this. All right, I had to get up at 5:30 on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. So I was up at 5:30. I had the iPad going. I was watching Stan and Rod, and who they had the Cole Kubelik was on for a while. They had Ronnie Brown and Jason Campbell on. That was awesome for a while. They had their own little set there in the dressing room. I was watching that all morning. They had Jay Jacobs on for a little bit. They had Bruce Pearl come on. He's always fun. People like that on. And then when I had to actually, when I was running around getting ready, getting mirror ready and everything, I had the big TV in the living room on. I had the big TV in the bedroom on. I was carrying my phone around. I mean, I had it everywhere. And then I had to go to work. And when I got to the classroom, I immediately turned it on the giant projector on the wall. So I had like an 10-foot wide National Signing Day image up there. But then I had to actually stop and show and talk, teach class for a little while, show part of a movie. And so as soon as that was over, I'm back checking. And I actually did miss the Derek Brown commitment. And I almost fell over when I got back on Twitter and saw – it was one of those things where you see the statements rolling by and you're like, is that saying what I think it's saying? Because nobody was just saying it. They're like, oh, this is huge, or oh, that was I'm like, what? But I finally kind of figured it all out. So, all right, well, so let's get on into it then. Predictions going in. Predictions going in. We knew some of the players we were probably going to get, and we knew that there were some that were maybe kind of on the bubble, and we knew there were probably some that it just didn't look good anymore, So, how did you feel about all that? I mean, I think on balance it worked out pretty positive, don't you?
It did. I think some years it seems like there's a lot of uncertainty, and this year it seemed like there was very little uncertainty. I think, there was the one guy that everybody thought was going to decommit, go to Georgia, Mitchell,
and he did.
And he did, and that was not a shock. And I'm happy, I'm happy for him wherever he wants to do. And then there was the other players that we thought we would get. I think a lot of people thought we would get Nate Craig Myers and his brother. I think.
Let me ask you this. Originally he had like Florida State and somebody else, and Florida. He had some, and then Auburn and North Carolina. When he dropped everybody but Auburn and North Carolina, my first thought was, well, that's a slam dunk, right? If it's us or North Carolina, come on. But then I started thinking, wait a minute. See how you overthink these things, right? I thought, wait a minute. If it's Auburn and North Carolina, there must be something really special about North Carolina that would have them where they normally wouldn't be. So now I'm starting going, Auburn is the one that's just the fake, the dummy. They really want to go to North Carolina. Oh, I'm overthinking and overthinking and overthinking. You see what I'm saying? And then when he finally just announced Auburn, I'm like, well, that was a waste of brain cells. Why did I ever worry about it?
North Carolina's offense is really good, and they're it's good. It's a good receiver offense, so I didn't blame them for considering them. So, but no, there wasn't. I mean, the big drama really was about Derek Brown. I mean, I think everybody thought Rashawn Gary was going to Michigan. That wasn't any drama, and he had kind of eliminated us going to signing day. So, and I think there was the other offensive tackle we went after EJ Price, and it looked like he was going to go somewhere else, and he ended up going to. I think he went to Southern Cal, maybe, but
I believe so.
T. Martin came in and stole him out of the Southeast for Southern Cal. So, but we ended up getting the Prince Sammons guy. That was a really good signing. And then the Derek Brown thing kind of capped off the day, and was anytime you get a 5-star defensive tackle, it's a cause to be dancing around in your office or wherever you are. So.
Right. Georgia flipped a 3-star David Marshall from us, and they were dancing the streets.
That's right.
And all of a sudden they looked up, and we flipped a 5-star from them. Whoops. Whoops. I'm there. I'll take that trade. And by the way, have you watched the Derek Brown highlight video on YouTube? Have you watched it?
I watched a little bit of it. I haven't watched the whole thing.
Oh my heavens. I tweeted yesterday, I believe, don't show it to small children. It'll frighten them. Because what's funny is his school, Lanier, looks like Texas. They have the orange and white and the Longhorn and everything. He looks like a senior at the University of Texas playing in a junior high game. Oh, my goodness. There's like running backs going around on a sweep. He runs them down from behind. He's like 350 pounds, and he grabs them from behind and yanks them down like a rodeo, roping a calf. And I'm going, oh, my gosh. I can't tell you how excited I am to see him in the big orange and blue out there with Carl Lawson coming, Montravius coming, and maybe hopefully Byron Cowart coming. And then you got him out there. And
you got Antoine Jackson and Marlon Davidson.
Good heavens. It's just not fair. We're going to go from having almost no, real action on the defensive line when Carl was hurt, which was most of the time, to if they can get going. They're freshmen now. Bear in mind they're freshmen, so we'll see.
But we're not counting on them to play 80 plays a game. I mean, because we have Montravius Adams, we got Russell, we got Devereaux Lawrence who came on at the end of the year. These guys can come in and play 20 snaps a game, and play as hard as they can and make a difference, and then learn as they go. And we're not counting on them to be in there and hold up against the run all season and to make plays. They get in there, they can play some SEC football, they can help, provide quality depth at the defensive line, which is the key to success. You saw it in the national championship game. I mean, Alabama and Clemson were there because they had 2 great defensive lines, and those things made the difference. So That's the kind of talent that Auburn has assembled the defensive line with the signing class and the players we have returning, and I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely. This is the best defensive line class possibly in Auburn history, at least that I can remember, and probably the best receiving class, too, in Auburn history. It's right up there with the 2002. It's funny. People keep calling the 2004 class, which is bizarre because their 2004 was their junior year. It was their third. I mean, why would you – well, I mean, I know that was the year they did really well, but they didn't do that bad in 2005. They were the whole offense in 2005 pretty much, and irons. But, yeah, they were the 2002 class. Courtney Taylor redshirted. The other three played in 2002. Their first game was in the Rose Bowl out there against USC. Or the Coliseum.
Coliseum.
I want to run through some of the individual players just real quick. Not all of them, but I got a couple of notes about some. Like you say, we know about Marlon Davidson, Antoine Jackson, two great defensive linemen that committed, that they're already enrolled. Kyle Davis, possibly the new Duke Williams.
I hope so. I mean, he's a big wide receiver from Georgia. He's a physical guy. I mean, he's in school already, and I think he had a little bit of surgery, so I don't know if he's going to play in the contact and spring practice. But no, I mean, a big physical guy. And what you have to love about all of these receivers is, what were we missing in the offense last year? Big plays. Yes. Not just the running quarterback thing, but guys who could get the ball and make plays, make 20, 30, 50-yard plays with the ball. And we got a bunch of those guys, and he's one of them. So,
can we start with make the catch?
Yes.
And
there you
once
go.
They make the catch, then they can do something. All right. So Kyle Davis is pretty much like the number one
you have for our receivers.
Well, you know what? This is a good example too. Is what you were talking about before about how we sort of take for granted the ones we already had, because most people seem to think Kyle Davis is a potentially better receiver marginally than Nate Craig Myers, but yet we had Kyle Davis locked in, and so Nate Craig Myers gets all the attention. But I mean, everything I've heard, they're both going to be spectacular. Let's see, Landon Rice, the tight end. You talked about him a little bit. Can't wait to we've needed him. We needed something like that.
And I have a little bit of inside scoop on him because he originally at one point went to Darlington, which is a private school in Rome, Georgia. One of my cousins is a teacher there and a coaches soccer and some other sports there, and knows the coach. And then he transferred to another school where his dad is a football coach who got hired to a bigger school. And we have not had a prototype tight end like this in a while. He isn't one of those guys that's more of a receiver or more of a blocker. He's kind of the do everything tight end like we haven't had in a while. And I'm very excited about it. And it's, again, another guy, when we get in the red zone, things are tough, who can help block, but also, slip out and use that big body to make a catch. And he's a guy that could have played multiple positions, but he's perfect to be a big tight end in this offense.
Excellent. I'm very excited to hear that. Yeah, we definitely need more scoring options in the red zone. So that's a big thing. Let's see. John Broussard, good defensive back. Paul James, the other defensive lineman, kind of getting lost in the shuffle, but he's a 4-star.
Well, and he's a junior college guy. Paul James is about all these guys, he's going to be the guy that probably has the best chance to start day one.
Right, because he's probably 20 years old and ready to roll.
That's right. He's a junior college guy who's already in school. You put him, and he's a defensive end. You put him on the other side from Boston and just go with it. And then you have another guy, maybe he can get pressure on the quarterback.
Well, I can't even conceive of such a thing. JF3. JF3. I feel good about him. I feel like he's going to be our starting quarterback. He's supposed to be a faster, slightly better armed Nick Marshall. Well, okay, sign me up. I mean, that sounds good.
I have heard good things about how quick he is and how fast he is in the open field, and I think that's going to make a big difference. We'll see about the passing accuracy and that kind of stuff. I worry a little bit about his size.
Right.
He's the same height as Nick Marshall, but I mean, I think on the official Auburn signing day thing, they listed him at 178 pounds. So
Yeah.
he's
24/7 has him 180, but that's 2 pounds.
So
right?
I've seen him, a little above that, but he's going to have to put on some weight in order to take the pounding of being, the quarterback in this offense. You don't want him to lose any speed, but I think just, add a little muscle and bulk him up a little bit because, 180 pounds, I worry he wouldn't survive the season.
I've watched a little bit of his video, and he is lanky. He's tall, lanky, but man, he can move.
He's electric.
I mean, he got the snap, and he just goes to his left, and he looked faster than Nick, and Nick was not slow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm very excited about JF3, and he will forevermore be JF3. Trey Threat. I mean, the man's name is Triple Threat. Is there a better name for a linebacker? If in the 4-3, it'd be perfect, right? The Triple Threat at linebacker.
Well, and we needed linebackers. He's a bigger linebacker. He's like 6'2", 238, and he's an in-state guy. So I think he's been with us for a while, and he's a guy I think they can come in. We need linebackers right away. Other than Trey Williams, we need some other guys to step up, and they've got some other guys who redshirted and some guys who are backups. We redshirted a lot of the linebackers we recruited last year, and I think Trey Threat's going to step into that group and try and get some playing time.
We need one more linebacker named Trey, and they can be the Trey Threat.
It could be the Trey.
The Trey Threat. Good Lord. All right. And then the last one that's already enrolled is Malik Miller. And, we're always looking for that. We're always looking for that Eric Smith.
Mm-hmm.
That Eric Smith fullback that can kind of be the utility outfielder guy or whatever, infielder guy that can do a little bit of everything. But what I understand is even though he's kind of come in as a fullback, they're going to let him try some running back.
That's what he wants to do. He's a bigger running back. I mean, he was from Kerryon Johnson's team and a private school near Huntsville, and he's an excellent running back, and he wants to try to be the every down back. And it's probably not this year, but you could see him come in a red shirt and be in a situation where next year, the roster clears out a little bit, and all of a sudden you look around and it's him and Kerryon Johnson again. So I could see that situation, and he is a much bigger guy, but we've had bigger running backs have success, and it'd be nice to have a big guy who could run inside the tackles and move the chains and stuff, especially when we have a smaller quarterback who can't be doing a lot of the quarterback draw stuff and pushing the pile. So
that's a good point. Yeah, we're not going to have JF3 out there doing any quarterback up the middle power runs.
That's right.
No, I don't. It'd be once, and then that would be. All right, so here's the guys we picked up. We talked about Derek Brown. I'm serious. Go watch his video. You'll cry for those. You'll weep for those. You want to send like a care package to the offensive players. He's displaying.
Well, and listen to him interviewed. Also sounds like a really good guy, really good kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we talked about Nate Craig Myers. We got Eli Stove.
Well, you need to go back and watch Nate Craig Myers video if you haven't.
Yeah.
This is a guy that everybody in the country wanted as a wide receiver, and because he's so good with the ball in his hands and so fast and so explosive. And I think he's going to be that guy that we haven't had in a while that can really, do stuff with the ball in his hands, get deep, run by people, and make big plays. And I'm very excited about him.
Well, I hope that JF or whoever our quarterback is can get the ball to him.
I think they can. I think
this receiving class is putting a lot of faith in our staff to get the quarterback situation straightened out, and I hope that's. I mean, we all hope that happens, but I mean, we need one of these quarterbacks to pan out. But right next to him, Eli Stove. He's the one. He's smaller. He's an inch shorter. He's a little bit lighter, but he's fast. Right. That's what I understand. Eli Stove is fast.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy.
Yeah, but he's one that Gus said, I believe it was Brandon Marcello that asked Gus, who were a couple of guys that kind of maybe were under the radar that people aren't talking about as much as they should. And I believe he mentioned Eli Stove. You know, he's like, the other two receivers getting all this attention, but Eli Stove is one we've been wanting for a long time and is going to be awesome. So,
well, and he's, you know, one of the ways that colleges recruit now versus in the old days is they have camps every summer, and they invite a bunch of these top players to come, play at them. They practice against each other. And you're seeing them play against other top players. And he's the guy who came to those camps and was dominant. And they saw it up close. They saw him, absorbing what they were teaching him. They saw him making plays. And I think that was it. And I think they offered him, got in on him early, and that made a big difference when everybody else in the country was trying to get him. So,
yeah. Yep. Let's see. The other receiver is Marquise McLean. He's the one he's the only one that's a 3-star, but I think he's supposedly just about as good as the other 3.
Well, and I think he's definitely the under the radar receiver. That's going to be his role. And he's another one, that's from Florida, from the Panhandle, I think.
Yeah,
again,
6'2", 209.
Yeah, again, a bigger guy, very fast, good athlete. Played track. And sometimes it's these, everybody thinks it's going to be the guy that gets all the attention, but they like this guy for a long time, and I think he could come in and be a solid receiver, productive for years to come. So.
Oh, sure. Let's see. The players we haven't mentioned, I want to mention. You talk about Prince Salmons, who comes in as, I guess, as a defensive end, but he actually is going to play offensive line for us. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of he played both ways in high school, like a lot of these guys do. And I think a lot of schools recruited him as a defensive lineman, but we recruited him as an offensive tackle. And I think he has the kind of big frame that they look at and go, he puts the weight on. He could be one of those offensive tackles who has the ability to really get out and run and move and move his feet really well. And, he could easily be 300 pounds without losing a lot of agility and stuff. And he definitely has the size, the body, the build, the frame to hold that weight. And he's pretty raw. But Herb Hander's been recruiting him for a while. We recruited him at Penn State. He's been recruited him as soon as he came to Auburn, and I'm excited about him. He's a great story, a good kid. You definitely should go read that article. It was in Cincinnati Magazine that I tweeted out, and Herb Hander and some other people tweeted out. There's a part of the story is they're in a high school football game, and I think they're on the road maybe, and they're getting their rear end kicked, and they go in the locker room, and he basically stands up and says, if you don't want to go out there and win this game, get out of here, go back and get on the bus or whatever, because I liked it.
Let's see. A couple of other players I haven't mentioned. There's Woody Barrett, of course. He is the future. We'll see how that works out, but he's got to pass his ACT, I believe. He's got to get a higher score on his ACT exam, but if he can do that, he'll be in good shape. But he is 6'2", 225. He is the more prototypical Gus quarterback of recent years. A little more power to his game, not as much scampering around, right?
Absolutely.
And I think he's got a good arm, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's fast, but he's also more of a physical runner. He can also do more of the inside stuff than Franklin, I think. And he's an excellent passer. So I think he's an excellent quarterback. A lot of colleges wanted him to play in multiple kinds of systems, but I think, everything works out. I think down the road he could be great in this offense.
Right. Let's see. We got Brodarius Ham.
Best name ever.
Right. Yeah. Hey, and he won a bet for me, more or less. Somebody asked the night before who would be the first player to fax their letter in, and I said, well, it's going to be somebody from Georgia or Florida on the East Coast. So I said, Brodarius Ham. He looks like an industrious, hardworking young man who'd be up early at the fax machine. And sure enough, he came through for me. He sent that fax in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So way to go, Brodarius. I'm very proud of you. 6'5", 320 offensive lineman. Very good.
He's a guard. He's one of the best guard prospects in the country, and he was recruited by all the SEC schools. And I think he's a guy you see down the road taking over for the excellent guards we have now and being kind of a road grader for the running game. And I think I like him. He's got a great name. I think you're never going to forget that.
No, absolutely. And a long line of Auburn players with great names. Speaking of which, Marlon Character. Oh, that character.
He's a character.
Yeah, he's quite a character, Marlon. He's a safety. Sounds pretty good. He was the guy that stuck with us for a long time. Could have gone to South Carolina, right? He's the one that originally came to South Carolina, and then he switched to Auburn because of Muschamp and T-Rob, and then they try to just sort of take him with them to South Carolina. He's like, no, I'm staying in Auburn, and so good for him. That was pretty cool.
He's a safety prospect, and he's from Atlanta, Grady, and I think he's good. I think T-Rob and Muschamp, whatever you want to say about him, they had a really good eye for identifying defensive back talent. And the guys we have that we brought in last year made a huge difference, and I think Character could be one of those guys for the future. So.
Yeah, Carlton Davis and I'm looking forward to. Well, I mean, we've got the front of our defense and the back of the defense. We just got to get the middle now. We got to get those linebackers. Right. And just a couple others. Let's see, Javon Myers, the brother of Nate Craig Myers, the half brother, I guess. They got him listed here on 24/7 as a 3-star. I thought he was a 4-star defensive back.
He's a 4-star by Scout, and he's a cornerback. I've seen some places put him as a safety, but he's an excellent athlete too, very fast, and he's a long, lanky kind of cornerback, kind of like the guys we brought in last year. And I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be played at a high level in Florida, high level football there, and I think he's going to be pretty good. So.
And let's see, and it's locked up on me. Last but not least,
Daniel Thomas.
Yeah, I wanted to mention Daniel Thomas because he's an interesting story. He's the one that I believe kind of came in late and wanted to play. He's out of Robert E. Lee in Montgomery. Wanted to play at Auburn, and they told him, we're full. We don't have any more spots. And so he was disappointed. He was kind of casting around looking for somewhere else to go, but he wasn't very happy, I'm sure. And they called him up like 5 o'clock. They called him up before I got up on Tuesday morning and said, give Nigel Warrior credit. He did kind of string us along and said he was coming, and then he didn't come. But give him credit, he didn't wait till 5 o'clock in the afternoon to make that announcement. He went ahead and made that announcement 7 o'clock in the morning, which gave I assume he must have called our coaches before that and told them he wasn't coming, and they immediately called Daniel Thomas. And I would have understood if Daniel Thomas had said, that's all right. You didn't have room for me, so, but he didn't. He said, I'll take it. That's where I wanted to play. It worked out, and I'm going to come. So good for him, right?
It is, and sometimes these stories work out in ways where, he may end up being a better player than Nigel Warrior. And I'm excited. Yeah. I'm happy we got him, and I hope it works out well for him. But the other part is it's not like, we were scratching around taking some 1-star guy out of middle of nowhere. This guy played at a big school in Alabama and made a bunch of plays there. So for a team,
Robert E. Lee is one of the bigger football schools, certainly in Alabama. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, I've lost my going off script. All right, anything else about let's see.
I did want to mention the other guy, Tayshawn Manning. We signed is the other guy that we signed, but he's the guy that was diagnosed with cancer. That's that Auburn honored their scholarship even after he had been diagnosed, and they could have backed off and told him to get better first, but they went in and honored it so he can come to school and while he's getting treatment, and then when he's ready to play football, or if he needs to wait a year, he can do that and then enroll. And so I thought that was a good story, and I hope he, regardless of whether he plays football for Auburn or not, I hope he gets better and everything's okay.
And then there was the missing man. We were in a fierce contest with South Carolina for our legacy player,
Stephen Davis Jr.
and he vanished off the face of the earth. I assume it's grades, right?
That's what I've heard, that he's not going to make his grades and he's kind of reevaluating his options.
So he's going to end up. So I mean, he didn't go to South. He didn't sign with anybody, as far as I understand.
Not that I know of.
So he's probably going to have to go the JUCO route and then come back in a year or two, I would guess.
Yep.
And see where he can end up. That's too bad.
And we had a couple of other players that we were, on early, but didn't make their grades and are going to junior college. There's a defensive lineman named Newkirk, I think, who was, Auburn would have taken but didn't make his grades. And he's going to junior college and trying to come back and sign with us in 2 years. So,
all right. Well, now as time moves along from us, I got to push the button here.
Factoid of the week.
Factoid of the week.
And you got to make a noise or it doesn't show up.
Oh, dude. I'm sorry. Here we go. Here you
go. He has one sign, ladies and gentlemen, and that's it. John, in the last 7 years, what do Auburn and Oregon have in common? There's several things, right? But I think national championship games.
We met in the national title game.
That's true, but beyond even that, in the last 7 years, what do Auburn and Oregon have in common?
We've been to one. No, we've been to two.
Ah. How many has Oregon been to in the last 7 years?
One. They went to the playoff, but
and beat the living snot out of Florida State.
Which I'm still thankful for.
Right, which meant that they got to
the national title game and lost to Ohio State. Right.
Auburn and Oregon are the only other teams besides Alabama who have played in multiple national championship games in the last 7 years. Alabama, Auburn, and Oregon. Otherwise, you've got Texas won, LSU won, Notre Dame won, Florida State won, Ohio State won, Clemson won, but you've got Auburn and Oregon too. So nice. For every time somebody tells you, "Oh, woe is Auburn," "Oh, Gus sucks," "Oh, what have we ever done?" We're getting, we're just at the bottom of the barrel in college football. It's that thing I always tell you. If you live in a bipolar world where there is Auburn and Alabama and no other team, the NCAA has two teams, Auburn and Alabama, then yeah, it sucks to be us currently. But if you live in the real fact-based world where there's like 120 teams, we are tied for second in the last 7 years in appearing in the national championship game.
I have another stat for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
There's a guy that writes for SB Nation named Bill Connolly who does a lot of statistical stuff, and I like to read his stuff. And so he does the thing. He just put out the most updated version of it where they've kind of showed over time that to make it to have a chance to play for the national title, you have to recruit at a high level. You have to be consistently at the top. And that there is a direct correlation between recruiting rankings and how your team does. And so he does an updated rank over time of teams, classes, and then kind of the rolling averages, okay? And so here is over the last 5 years, here's the overall recruiting rankings, okay? Alabama 1, Southern Cal 2, Florida State 3, Ohio State 4, Auburn 5, Georgia 6, LSU 7.
Really?
Yes.
And describe again exactly what that is, what that ranking is.
That is like a composite of the recruiting rankings, and over the last 5 years. So basically saying we're the 5th best recruiting classes over the last 5 years. And the idea with a 5-year picture is to give an idea about the relative talent on your team based on 5 years worth of rankings, because you got some guys that redshirted and some, that kind of thing. So, and the idea is if you are going to compete for a national title or play for a national title, you need to be recruiting at at the higher end for a consistent period of time. You can't just have one class and disappear. You have to consistently be up there at the top.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And the last time we didn't have a, top looking recruiting class was like 08, 09. Other than that, we've been pretty much the top 10 or right around there, even the top 5. Some. Okay. I wanted to run an interesting quote by you right quick from Bruce Pearl. I heard him talking on the recruiting show, and he said that football recruiting is different from basketball in that in basketball, when a player commits to a school, all the other schools generally back off and don't recruit him anymore. Had you ever heard that before?
No, I'm not positive I believe it either, but I mean, if he said it, then that's what it is. So,
well, he was saying it was just amazing how different it is in football, where when you commit, it just gets more. It's almost like the shark circle even more. But he's like, in basketball, there's kind of a general agreement that they leave them. They leave you. You leave the commitments alone and don't keep coming after them. So I thought, A, it's too bad football isn't like that. And then I thought, B, how long will it be before basketball is like football? It's almost inevitable.
Well, the other thing that happened, I think basketball has an early signing period, and maybe that makes a difference too. So,
anyway, I thought that was interesting. Let's see. You want to talk a little bit about the overall roster for next season? We got about 5 minutes if you want to for that.
I was going to say, do you want to go straight to questions, or you want to go through this a little bit?
You want to pick that up next time?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Well, I also had a ticket office scandal update that I want to throw in here. Let me just give you very, very, very quickly. I'm not even going to look the story up. I'm going to say we've been reporting this for months, right? The whole ticket office scandal, and there's smoke and there's fire and whatever. But what has happened, if you haven't seen the news today, what has happened is the ticket office employee who was the one that brought the complaint that they were doing nefarious deeds with the tickets, he was fired. And he is suing Auburn over that. Well, today he went before his lawyer and Auburn's lawyer went before the judge for the first time, a U.S. federal district judge. And the judge, I forgot the word he used. Oh, he said that here's what the argument is. The former employee, I forget his name, is saying that the ticket office was doing nefarious deeds with the tickets and stuff, which was deceiving the Auburn people buying tickets and the donors and all that. Okay. He was fired for blowing the whistle, basically. That's his complaint. The Auburn lawyer is saying that Auburn's defense is that the guy signed a contract saying he couldn't do that. And the judge looked at it and said that the Auburn contract that employee had to sign was filled with, quote, weasel words, unquote. That's not a good outcome for Auburn. And the lawyer representing Auburn said that this is not a story because nobody would care what was happening, and B, the employee that was fired did not have a legal right to report what he discovered. That's the defense, that nobody cared and he didn't have a right to report it. And the judge told the Auburn lawyer, he says, even if I find in favor of you, you need to change these contracts so that your employees in the future have some understanding of what it is they can and cannot do. Because right now it's written in such a way that it's not clear at all to an Auburn employee what rights they have. He said it's written in such dense lawyerese that nobody can make heads or tails out of it. So the judge didn't summarily rule on anybody's favor, but he sure was not happy about how Auburn and their contracts were working. So we'll keep an eye on this going forward. Did you have any thoughts on that? Are you ready to roll on?
I don't have any thoughts other than I'd be interested to hear the opinions of some lawyers in Alabama about the judge in the case or whatever. So
right. So we'll keep an eye on that. I just want to get that out while it was fresh. Let me see. Dude, hold on. We have.
It's time for listener questions. Dun, 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 on the AU Wishbone podcast.
What have we got?
All right. Our first question comes from Reynolds Wolf.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Dang it. I wasn't prepared. You gotta give me
I gotta set you up. I'm sorry.
Yes. Who does our first question come from?
Reynolds Wolf.
Like an unwanted neighbor that comes over and visits.
The weather.
Thunder snow.
I just love that so much. I can't ever get enough of it.
It makes you happy.
It does.
All right.
Reynolds has some good questions this week, if I remember correctly.
He does have some good questions. Are you ready?
He always has good questions, but these were particularly good. These are, dare I say, thunder snow quality questions.
All right. Question number 1. On December 24th, 2015, Cam Newton had a son named Chosen Sebastian Newton. In the year 2038, when starting quarterback Heisman winner, future Heisman winner, Chosen graduates from Auburn after an undefeated season and incinerating the SEC West, will Auburn head coach Cody Burns and AD Gus Malzahn re-retire the famed number 2 jersey or just recirculate it for a lucky or unlucky incoming freshman?
I love it. I think he answers his own question there. I think his question is just a sidelight along the highway.
Well, and then he goes on to say, and also, will Toomer's Corner need to be on lockdown after the 5-touchdown win against Alabama that season, especially after Harvey Updike's grandson, Saban Bear Updike, loses his assistant to the assistant manager gig at Chuck E. Cheese after setting the animatronic mouse on fire after Bama's loss?
Reynolds is a talented man. I mean, that doesn't need to be it. That's a statement, and it's a statement of profound truth. I know. When Chosen Newton is just lighting up the Bama secondary, oh, I can't wait, and running all over it. Oh man!
All right,
for Coach Burns.
His second question is, what is your second favorite SEC West team?
For Coach Burns.
You lied to me. Release the hounds.
Okay, what's the question?
His second question is, what is your second favorite SEC West team? Pretend Auburn doesn't exist. Which team would you support?
This is like asking, in World War II, which was your favorite Axis power?
Definitely Italy.
Italy? Oh, Bulgaria doesn't get a little love?
No.
Nothing for Bulgaria? Come on. No. The Turks were slapping them around.
They had that whole thing in Libya or Ethiopia.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, they invaded Ethiopia with pasta, and they didn't bring any water to boil it, so they couldn't eat their pasta. And there was the whole dying of thirst thing, too, yeah. And losing to Ethiopia. Who is my favorite SEC West team if Auburn didn't exist? Is that the question?
Yes.
Who would I be? I mean, it can't be Alabama.
Well, the easy answer is whoever's playing Alabama.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, I dislike them all so much.
So you can't choose one.
You know what? Probably Texas A&M for the lone reason that there's not enough history yet.
That's fair.
They haven't done enough yet. Arkansas, it only took them 20 years to tick me off.
No, I'm there with Arkansas. Having lived in Mississippi and been to a lot of games at Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and know a lot of fans. I could live with one of those.
You could or could not?
I could, absolutely. I could live with one of those if I had to as my replacement SEC West team.
All right. This is big then. As somebody that's lived there and worked there in Mississippi for a long time, which could you live with more? In other words, which is the least bad? The Rebels or the Bulldogs?
You're going to put me on the spot here.
Yes, I am. We have to know this, right? Because I can see something.
I mean, they
good.
both have done plenty of things to annoy me as an Auburn fan, so I'm trying to filter those things out. I mean, I think Mississippi State is the most like Auburn in terms of the personality of the school and the students and stuff. So maybe I would say that. But I had more fun going to Ole Miss probably, going to the games there. So.
Huh. All right. But Ole Miss is more like Alabama, right? Or they think they are. They'd like to be.
It is in terms of the student body makeup, probably. So.
Right. Okay. Does Reynolds have any other questions?
His last question is the same question, but outside the conference.
You know, it's funny. There was a time that I almost wanted to be a Florida State fan, to which now I just go, ugh. But there was a time, right, when they were first coming up and they had that really cool offense and no defense at all. They were a fun team, right? They were kind of like Auburn in 2009. They were throwing the ball all over the place, running up points, but they couldn't stop couldn't stop anybody going the other way. They were kind of fun. But I mean, I guess my other current favorite teams are Oregon. I like watching Oregon, and just because they're fun to watch. And I still root for Arkansas State because I had good fun watching them in 2012 when Gus was there. What do you think?
I mean, my easy answer is Virginia Tech because my daughter goes there, and I've had to watch it and have live their games. And I have a bunch of friends that go there, so I'd probably say that. But and because I like defense, so.
And there you go. That's right. Okay, any other questions?
We do have other questions. Our next question comes from frequent question asker Auburn Elvis. He says, as a longtime Auburn fans, how has the way you follow recruiting and signing day changed over the years, and what do you like or dislike about those changes? That's a good question.
Well, for me, it's from being totally oblivious to it and not knowing anything until I read it in the newspaper the next day. Oh, hey, we signed some players. To, being like I described a while ago, having 3 TVs on, my iPad, my phone, just wall to wall, partly because I knew I'd be talking about it on here with you, so I really wanted to be on top of it, but partly because I was that interested. What about you?
I think the biggest change is the instantaneous nature of it. I mean,
yeah.
As hard as this is to believe, we both went to school at a time before the internet. And
hey. You mean before the internet got so fast? That's what.
That's right. Yeah.
We were in Auburn back when the super high speed internet was slower than it is now. That's what John meant.
Right. And so, we had to go as you said, we had to go pick up the newspaper the next day to see who Auburn signed and what their bios were and stuff. That was the only way you're going to get it. And so we moved from that.
And what the Soviet Union was up to that day. I mean, Russia.
We moved from that to, having the internet and being able to have a better sense of the rumors of what was going on signing day, and maybe you could update it and get the list of who was signed kind of as they came in, the confirmation. So now having Twitter, and having basically instantaneous information about when a player signs or what's happening, and just the instant reaction to it is amazing. I mean, I'm, 1,000 miles away, but I could instantly refresh my phone and Twitter on my phone and see what was happening. And I think that the immediacy of that and the accuracy of that is an entirely different level of excellence. And then even like in the last year or two, like you said, Auburn's added this TV thing. Auburn football has added this official TV broadcast, and they update their website with the guys picture and highlights and bios as soon as they get the official signing, the paperwork in. So then it's really there, and then you hear them talk about the guys, and that's another level of excellence. You don't have to wait. You don't have to hope that ESPN spends 1 minute talking about Auburn out of their 2-hour show or whatever. Here's a way you can get good content about what's going on with Auburn players right away.
Yeah. And when you and I were there at Auburn, we were curious to see what Czechoslovakia and East Germany had done. I mean, the Czech Republic and unified Germany. Moving on. What other questions do we have?
All right. Next question. James Jones says, can you do an episode that develops an all-time, all-name team? He says, Broderius Ham must join Carlo Cheatham and Tim Trinkard.
Oh, there have been a lot of others besides them, too, just in the last couple of years. It's amazing we have two princes. I should have gotten that Spin Doctors song put on the soundboard.
I've heard that enough.
Yeah, that's probably true. We've got, all kinds of interesting names. Yeah, we'll have to put together an all-name team sometime.
All right. Well, we're on that. That's a good off-season project for us. All right. David Smiley says, does the fact that we only signed one linebacker concern you, or do you think they're planning on running mostly 4-2-5?
Yeah, it concerns me. The other thing that concerns me is running backs. I feel like with having Peyton Barber gone on, I just worry that we've got basically Mario Fannin and a very iffy Mike Dyer, in Rock and Jovan, and then I'm not sold on I'm not sold on Carry on my wayward son. I'm not sold on him being an every down power back. So I hope Malik Miller is healthy and can contribute. Maybe with those four, we can get. And I realize I changed the subject entirely. Linebacker. What do you think about linebacker? We are kind of thin, right?
We redshirted like four guys last year who are going to help play. So I think we are a little bit thin, but I think we are going to play a lot of nickel. I mean, against LSU, we'll play more of a traditional 4-3. But against a lot of other teams in this conference, we're playing nickel all the time anyway. Even if whether you want to be a nickel or not, when you play A&M and Ole Miss and State, you're in nickel because that's what you have. So when we play Clemson in the opening game, you're going to be in nickel against them a lot of the time. So it is what it is. You need fewer linebackers than you did 10 years ago, and we need more defensive backs, and that's kind of what we got. So I think in the long run, I think we'll be okay. Probably next year we need to go out and get some more, maybe three or four again in that class. So I do worry about it a little bit, but I think we're going to be fine. But I think it does show. I think we're going to be in a lot of nickel just because that's what the offenses force you to be in. Even if you weren't planning on that being your base, I think you just kind of forced you by the way a lot of teams play here now. Johnny Dent asked, are the big wide receivers in this class an admission by the staff that all the years of smaller wide receivers were a strategic mistake?
Well, we've had some bigger receivers, hadn't we? I mean,
yes, but they're all gone now. In the last 2 years, we lost Coates, we lost Duke, we lost Helicopter Man, and Ricardo. Yes. So those were the big receivers, on the team. I mean, Tony. So now we've got more. Right? Tony Stevens is big, but he's not as big as his other guys, and those were the big guys. So we needed some receivers that are 6'1", 6'2", and athletic enough to go up and get the ball and stuff, and we got those guys. So it is a big difference. I think some of it is just the turnover in the roster. The guys we had left tended to be smaller guys, and we need some of those for that slot position, but we need these big outside receivers too.
I'm telling you right now, the priority this fall is having a quarterback who can get the ball to those players. If we can put a quarterback on the field that can reliably, consistently get the ball to these playmakers and not turn it over, with everything else this team has going on, it can make as big of a jump as anybody. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the barbecue episodes and all that, which could be horrific on TV.
We're going to have serious discussions about that.
That may be an audio-only episode, maybe.
All right. And then,
but anyway.
A last question from Auburn Tweep. He was talking about the Bill Connolly rankings, and he said, so does this mean we'll be better than 6-6 in 2016, right?
Yes, absolutely. If we can get any kind of quarterback play at all, because remember, we were one score away from being like 9-3, and just a little bit better than that, and a little better on defense, double digits, right?
No,
So
I think that quarterback play was terrible last year. Receiving was not good. And I think we're going to see big upgrades at both of those areas this fall. And I think when you do, I think you're going to see a big difference in the team. I think the defense is going to be fine. I think we're going to be solid on defense. And the special teams were much better last year. I think they'll be good again. And then the offense just has to get, like you said, get good quarterback play. And I think the receivers can help them by making plays, by catching the ball and making plays after they catch it. And I think we know we're going to have a good running game. We got, worry about the tackles a little bit, replacing those two guys. But no, I expect with, a quarterback that can make plays on their own running the ball, like, we expect Franklin to be able to be able to do the read option with the running backs we have.
JF3.
John Franklin III, JF3.
JF3.
I think the offense is going to be better. But it is clear with those recruiting rankings, there is talent, a lot of talent on this team, a lot of talent. And so it's not going to be some fluke when Auburn comes out and gets better quarterback play next fall, and we're back contending for the SEC West again.
Am I crazy to kind of want to see Damian Craig working with JF3 a little bit? Because doesn't he seem kind of similar in a way? He's a little taller than Damian. But
Damian is the receivers coach. I'd be happy to see him working with Craig Myers and Kyle Davis and those guys. So.
You don't think that he's got something he can impart to another running quarterback that maybe Lashley can't? That's been a controversy in the offseason.
It's only a controversy because the quarterback play was terrible. The quarterback play is good, then it goes away, like everything else.
And whose fault is that? That's the question. See, I don't know. These are things that people tell me. And
it's a chicken or egg thing, I think.
Yes. All right. We have any more eggs in our basket question-wise?
No, that is it.
That is it. I just want to point out that when I have the Georgia announcers on audio here, and this is what the Georgia announcers were saying Tuesday
Wednesday.
When Derek Brown. Yes, well, whenever when Derek Brown made his announcement, yeah.
Oh my God!
And I was saying, oops. There you go. And the Georgia coaches are looking around and saying,
Larry Bird's not walking through that door, fans. Kevin McHale's not walking through that door, and Robert Parrish is not walking through that door.
And Derek Brown is not walking through that door. He's walking through our door. I'm very, very happy. And other coaches this fall will be looking at Derek Brown and saying,
what are you? Some kind of doomsday machine, boy. We got a king strong enough to hold an animal like you here. See what Jesus on whose side?
Here we go. Here we go. Right here. This is what's happening right now. No, I'm excited about Derek Brown, and I think, we've seen defensive linemen come in at other schools make a big impact as freshmen. Recently in the last couple of years in the SEC, I think he could absolutely be that guy. So,
you know what? I think we're done for the night. What do you think?
I'm good.
I think I'm going to hit the button. Yes?
Thanks for listening to the Wishbone Podcast. All past episodes are available at auwishbone.podbean.com and via iTunes. For more Auburn fun, join us on Facebook at facebook.com/auwishbone and follow the show on Twitter at auwishbone. War Eagle.
War Eagle, John.
War Eagle, man.
This has been a White Rocket Entertainment production.
And thanks to all the people who've been watching us live.
Thank you for listening to the AU Wishbone Podcast.
Sorry for stepping on you, Mira. Thanks to everybody that's been watching us live. We're out of here. John, go to bed.
Night.